Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tabor Talk. Actually, a nice day, Sunday, May 2nd, a little bit windy. But you know what? It's always sort of windy here. We're elevated in the mountains. But anyway, so I was surprised to see that Joe Rogan did another podcast yesterday, Saturday. His fifth of the week, Tuesday through Saturday. Gordon Ryan. It was actually, he labeled it an MMA show, but still, that's five podcasts for the week. A great week, too, by the way. So here's Gordon Ryan, perhaps the greatest jiu-jitsu player in the world, arguably. He's only 25 years old. Listen.
Training was just him trying to get us competent and then eventually to be the best in leg locking.
Leg locks.
And then once we got there, once we could beat the best guys in the world, or at least hang with the best guys in the world, then it was more specific towards winning under certain rule sets. EPI came along, and okay, how
Eddie
can
Bravo.
now you guys can do jiu-jitsu? You're competent everywhere. How can you succeed, and how can you beat certain players, or how can you win under specific rule sets? So it went from just a broad idea of initially getting better at jiu-jitsu just as a whole, and then more specifically, how can I win ADCC? How can I win EPI? How can I beat this guy? How can I beat that guy?
But has his training program
Okay, let me
evolved in
pause.
terms of
We all know where to find the Joe Rogan podcast on Spotify. I don't have to embed it in the comment section. So, Gordon Ryan, 25 years old, considered pound for pound the best jiu-jitsu player in the world, and he trains at the famous school. He's John Danaher. John Danaher is you want to talk about the GOAT, the greatest, most eccentric for sure. He always wears a rash guard. John Danaher has trained so many greats down at that whole Sarah Gracie, right? Hento Gracie in Midtown Manhattan. That's where Matt Serra trained, where he got his black belt. Actually, George St. Pierre, John Danaher has trained George St. Pierre. So an incredible background. They're real interesting, real smart guys. I wanted to say, if you want to listen to a great podcast, even if you're not into MMA or jiu-jitsu, listen to John Danaher. I don't know what number it is. I'll have to Google it and I'll put it here. I'm telling you, one of the best podcasts ever from Joe. I mean, that's kind of a silly thing. They're all good. But he is such an interesting man. Most of his life, he focuses on jiu-jitsu, of course. He eats, sleeps, and breathes this stuff. But he's an interesting guy. He's well-read. I think he has a PhD in philosophy or something, if I'm not mistaken. But here we go. I'm going to put all this stuff in the comment section or embed it here. But a little bit more of Gordon Ryan. By the way, I've not listened to the whole thing, so I might do a part 2 here. But here we go.
how he takes people through advancements, like how they start out in learning and then get to a place of a position where they're a black belt in competition? Like, does he have this all written out? Like, how is he doing this?
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't tell us too much about.
By the way, he's crippled too. John Danaher, not Gordon Ryan, of course, but he's got. I don't know what his affliction is. It's some sort of injury, and he never recovered. So he walks with a limp. He's a little bitter about that, but he's fine. I mean, when he was on Joe, he goes, that you can't compete or you can't roll. How do you feel about that? And he goes, well, what the fuck are you going to do? That's life. Second best thing is teaching people. So there you go.
He kind of just comes in and he shows up and he teaches moves, and you're like, okay, this is what John's teaching. This is what we should be doing. But a lot of it we used to just do all open rounds. Now we have a lot more positional rounds in place. Where
Let me just pause. I'm sorry for keep pausing. Don't just keep interjecting these things. I just can't imagine the brain, the mind of a guy. It's all in his head. All of these moves, and that camp there, that John Danaher camp, is so innovative. And again, they're famous for those leg locks, right? The last time the podcast when John Danaher was on Rogan, Joe got into it with him, and John Danaher said, I forget who said this to him, but he said, why ignore half the body, right? And that got him thinking about leg locks, right? So before the Danaher stuff, it was kind of like a cheap move, right? Like nobody did fucking leg locks. It was really dirty, and no one really perfected it. Remember, we're in the early days of UFC. I think it was Ken Shamrock. Ken Shamrock always tried to pull heel hooks and I don't know about knee bars, whatever. So, but even in the gym, it was like just a weird, dirty move, especially the knee bar, because you could really fuck someone's knee up. But anyway, so John Danaher's known for that. Let me play a little bit more.
Positions so that if we get to those specific positions, even though people have been training for twice as long as us, we've been training a lot longer in those specific niche positions than they have. So we actually have a lot more experience in those positions than they do, even though they've been training jiu-jitsu for much longer than we have. So our whole thing is to get to our key positions where we know where if we have one breakthrough, if I can get to the guy's back or I can get to the guy's legs. We've been in those static positions a lot longer than the other guys have.
Very impressive
They've
young
been trained
man here.
twice or three times as long as we have.
Very intelligent.
We have a lot more
Well
experience
spoken.
in those domains than they do.
It's hard to believe he's
Now,
only
did that start
25.
with EBI, where they have that very specific 2 option positions?
I'm going to put all this stuff in the comment section. It's quite impressive seeing them train. It just looks like when you take a look at jiu-jitsu, just say in the 90s and the early 2000s, right? The Gracie brothers, it's just such at another level. And this is no gi, I believe so. When the Danaher camp trains no, they probably do both, but it's a focus on no gi. But it is quite impressive. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to cut this short just for part 1. And when I finish, I'll do a part 2 and break it down in more detail. Okay? Good friends, good books to the sleepy conscience. Peace, love, and understanding here in the Cap Skills. Tabor Talk.